Howdo, I'm Mark from Morrigan's Creations, and I bought a bits box online a couple of months ago, and inside it was a few Space Marines. This one is from 2013, I believe it's from the Tactical Squad, and there was a couple others from apparently 2003. I don't know what box they came from, I just know they have the slotted base and the base says 2003 on it, so that's what I'm going off. The paint jobs as a whole were not too bad, to be fair, but this one stood out to me like a sore thumb. The paint that had been applied to the model was really thick, and it seemed as though it may have actually been primed twice. So my ideas at the moment are that perhaps this was a tester model testing different colour palettes, and instead of stripping it they just kept priming over top. The other option is this is just genuinely somebody's first model, the first attempt at painting. So I thought that it'd be a fun idea to strip it down and paint it how I think they were attempting to. And because of the very obvious purple armour that they had painted, I did a bit of research and I came across the Hawk Lords. These are Space Marines that have purple armour with gold trim. So I went about painting one of my own. So I loaded my airbrush with lead belcher and some Leviathan purple contrast paint, which was then applied over the entire model. This was done in multiple thin coats just to ensure there was nice smooth coverage. I then, because it seemed a little too pale, I added some Druchii Violet over the top. And wow, this made it pop a hell of a lot. And it actually made it a bit closer to the reference that I found online that I'm going to be showing on screen now. And to my surprise, when it dried, it hadn't actually lost a lot of its shine. So that was an absolute bonus. I then painted all the under armour in Abaddon Black, taking care here as I don't want to cover up any of the metallics that I've already worked with. I made sure that I was going to paint this crest using Abaddon Black as well, mixing in some Screaming Skull towards the highlights. For the Purity Seal on his right leg, I painted this with Thondia Brown, making sure that I wasn't going too thick with the coats, because I don't want it to look chunky as this is supposed to be thin paper. I then moved on to Gothor Brown, and after several thin coats I moved on to Screaming Skull for the highlights. When you're working in higher layers, make sure you're leaving a little bit of that last layer visible to help with the gradient. For the actual seal part of the Purity Seal, I am using Mephiston Red and highlighting with Evil Sunz Scarlet. I wanted to approach the gold trim in much the same way, so I worked with a couple colours and a wash. I started with Gehenna's Gold. Once again, I'm taking care not to put any of this gold paint on the rest of the model. When working on a project like this, I like to take my time. I don't want to have to go back and repeat steps, especially when it's with a colour that I've mixed and possibly can't mix again. To give this gold a bit of warmth, we are adding a layer of Reichland Flesh Shade. If you're ever going to be painting gold, I highly recommend you buy this shade. I then came in with an edge highlight of Auric Armour Gold. On top of the Reichland Flesh Shade, this really pops and helps sell the metallic look. From far away, it actually can be pretty hard to see, but when you come close up, you really start to notice it. Next, I'm going to do a layer of just straight lead belcher onto the weapon. I'll be honest, I don't know what this gun is called. I'm not that big into Space Marines. And believe it or not, this is actually the first Space Marine I've painted so far. Next, I'm going to be working with Nuln Oil. This is going to darken down that lead belcher and really emphasise the details that are sculpted onto this weapon. In the last few videos I haven't really done any bases, so I thought for this one I would go all out and do a nice base for this Space Marine. I may make a short in future showing how that I made these rocks, but one of the best qualities of it is it's quite brittle, so you can make cracks and breaks really easy. I decided to do a couple layers of stone as I thought this was going to help the silhouette of the Space Marine, making him look a little taller and a lot more imposing. I then changed gears slightly, drilling out some holes and putting in some wire from paper clips. This was so that I could hint that maybe this wasn't just normal stone but actually rubble from a building. To hide some of the seams and to also make this look like this has been here a long while, I added some Stirland mud. At this point I couldn't find a paintbrush, so I was using this sculpting tool. But I eventually did find a brush and I applied some astro granite to the top of the stone. To finish off the base, I added some sand and some other basing materials just to help this look a little more natural. And with that, let's look at what we started with and what we have. So this partly painted Space Marine started out as something only a mother or father could love. Chunky paints and being completely unfinished. I think we've saved this. Let me know what you think in the comments.